All right, here we go. We have one of the most rising R&B singers out of the Toronto area right now, RYE 783. How are you doing today, man?
Appreciate you having me, man. I'm good. We're in links. We're in the studio. We're kicking it. Appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, man, most definitely. The first time that we actually met was actually at Richlin Fharlo's fashion event and all that, and you being in the runway and all that, it was a very interesting experience, knowing that you have a love for fashion and love for the creative culture and the idea of clothing as well as even with your music as well too. I've been listening to to the songs for a bit too, so I don't know, it was a very dope track from there. One of the most recent songs that you had was Take It, which gained at least 20K on Spotify, and then you also had 20K views on all your YouTube channel views and all that, and then you've performed for places like the Libertine, and then also you were also doing branding for the Don Muliano brand, and then you were doing the Bitter Juice show and the re-up as well too. So it's a very interesting experience and what you've done within the performing aspect and even with the music so far too. And then you just had your most recent project too, Pray Love Power.
I dropped Pray Love Power in 2018, actually.
Oh, 2018, yeah.
But it still lives on, bro. I'm very happy it's out because it's something people can go back to and really understand the spectrum that I live on when it comes to genre and my sound. So.
Yeah, most definitely. And then you have an upcoming EP actually, The Boy Who Lived, which you've stated in your EPK as well. So definitely check up on that. But since it's your first time right here, I just want to start off with the very first question. So you grew up in Scarborough, as what we've communicated about. That's correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
All right.
Yeah, East Side.
All right, most definitely. So growing up in Scarborough, what was the environment like for you growing up? Would you say you had a good childhood back then, or would you say it was very different?
You see, my outside was good, man. School was good. It was more the at-home stuff that was more challenging, and a lot of things that I had to navigate through still today. But it was good. It's just for the most part, how it goes in black families with the trauma and stuff like that. And growing up, you don't really know it's trauma. You think it's normal. So yeah, is I don't even know how to explain it, man. But yeah, Scarborough's a beautiful place. If you haven't been there, go to it. Don't listen to the politics or whatever people say. Just pick your places and pick who you're chilling with. That's essentially it. But yeah, man, Scarborough's where it's at. Won't lie to you, right by the bluffs.
Oh, true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Drake, mentioned rapping about the bluffs. I think in his, if you're reading this, it's Too Late era and all that. He was talking about that. Even with the more darker tracks on there, and then there was a lot of popular acts from the area too, such as Killy, Cardinal. Even though he's from Flemo and all that, P Rain, Baka, all these other acts too, and even with the underground scene as well too. So in Scarborough, during your time, was it well known as an industry end for music and fashion, or just as a community at the time?
I mean, so back then it wasn't really the music hub. We had artists coming out of there, definitely, but growing up, I felt I got my inspiration from outside of the city. I was watching BET now, so I'd say from Atlanta, what they're doing out there. I really took that and put it into my music, put it into my way of expressing myself, because it was different. A lot of the people in Scarborough, they have this whole look or whatever, but looking from the outside looking in, it's a big change, it's a difference, so yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I know Stacey McKenzie was one of the most well-known black female models out in Canada, is from Scarborough, I think, at the time too. And then there was a huge prevalence even with the culture too. But as you said, there might not be as much culture that people were into around, because with the prevalence of television and the internet, I think it's more easier that people got their interest from that rather than what they see in the community in the sense. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So aside from the whole BET viewing in that sense, what was your other introductions to music, modeling, and fashion for the very first time?
So my first little tap in with music, I would say it came from reggae. So I'll be chilling, my dad's doing his little drops or whatever, but he would really play reggae dancehall in the car heavy. So, but there was this one time he was playing this one track from Taurus Riley, and it was like, you know, he's really conscious, but like at the same time, what caught me first was the melody, was the lyrics, and I'm like, yo, like what is this? So he tapped me in, you know, and then from there, I like jumped into the R&B, I jumped into the hip hop, I jumped into the rap. Like that's when I started to learn about 50 Cent, Eminem, like their whole wave. And then like I said, Atlanta, so like I was heavy in Ludacris, like step back, like yo, that video was crazy with the big fist and shit.
Yeah.
That was mad. But yeah, man. And then modeling and fashion, I would say that's kind of like new. I was always into fashion, but like the modeling, it came point in time where like I would wear the clothes, and then people are like, yo, you make it look good, so why don't you model it, you know? So yeah. I put those two and two together, and that's where we're at right now, so yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah. And as far as like your creative background in history, I know that you've talked about your father like dubbing like music before to like Terrace Riley and such. What are like your other like forms of creative background in history based on like the environment and everything else, and what inspired you to become like a singer-songwriter, artist, and model at the time?
So like I said, right, coming from Scarborough, there's like a whole different type of feeling, right? When people move, how people think, how people talk. And so like I was always like the outlier. Like I was skateboarding, like I always found different ways to express myself. I didn't really want to copy or do exactly what others. So I was skateboarding, I was watching like Pokemon, I was watching Digimon, like all that shit. I was heavy on that. And then it just came to a point now where, you know, I just picked it up upon myself and to just do what I wanted to do. You know, I didn't really want to think too hard or focus on what other people are doing.
Yeah. So, you know, you're more of a DIY type self in that sense too. So, like, to speak more on like that whole like DIY perspective, like, how was that important for you in terms of like building up who you are today in that sense?
I feel like it's important, man, in life. You know, not just with music or creatively, but just like for your soul. I feel like we all get to that point where bills stress us out, life comes down on us, we lose people, and it's like you only get one way to kind of like escape it. And I feel like that's through just being you, expressing yourself at all times. Like that's essentially it. Like DIY for sure, but yeah, just expressing yourself and being true to you. It's really important.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And you know, as far as like musical artists or genres, which artists or genres were you mainly like influenced by, and do you have any people or artists that you would like to work with in the future? Like,
I would say like, okay, so inspiration, MJ, Michael Jackson is the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? Just how he would hop on stage and girls would faint, like people would faint for him. Like he was just that guy. He was the entertainer for real. And I really want to be at that level. That's why like every time I perform, every time I make a song, my intention is to give it to the people. So like if I make a song and we're like, okay, we're at the hook, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, yo, how would this sound on stage? How would we perform this? So yeah, like MJ, number one. Anyone to work with in the city? I mean, like, yeah, there's a couple, but definitely I want to work with Pharrell. Yeah, like he's one of like the top dogs. Like I just watching him come up, like working, doing clips, doing Nerd, and then like now he has his own fashion stuff. He's working with Chanel. He's working with Adidas. Like he's a great inspiration to me. But yeah, like, you know, Drake's in there too. But yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know, speaking more on your interest in fashion and like modeling, which like designers and models were you also mainly influenced by, and what makes like the art of fashion like unique to you in that sense?
All right, so fashion designers, I'm really like interested by Alexander McQueen's story. So like, if no one knew, like he blew up when he was super young. He was like 16. And he was doing his thing, and I think like at his first fashion show, like his first big fashion show, he had like, it was like a horror theme almost. But at the time, publicists and people coming around taking pictures, they're like, oh, this is disgusting, this is not what fashion is. But it's like, yo, he's 16 and he's already thinking that like, this is my first time at bat. I need to show them something that they're gonna remember, you know? So from there, I was just looking at his story, and he also came up, like, he wasn't made into it, he kind of put himself in it. Like he dropped out of school at like 15, 14, and then at 16 he's doing his own fashion show with his own model. Like that's heavy inspiration when it comes to the designing part. Sorry, what was the other question?
So what makes like the art of like fashion unique to you in that sense?
Unique to me, I'm gonna go back to just being you. If you can take something that like, so like most people when they think about fashion, right, they'll be like, oh, he's wearing XYZ and he makes it look good, so I'm gonna go and buy exactly that and put it on me and see if, you know what I'm saying? But I think it's unique when you can take that same outfit and remix it for your own liking. Like if you can take a Nike Tech and then flex it out with like a scarf or flex it out with some accessories, like just express yourself with it. Like don't necessarily just copy and paste, but like really put yourself into it. Like unique. Take the fabric, take the colors, take the layers, and really make something out of it. It's like almost like a painting. Like, you know what I'm saying? Be creative with it, bro.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about the whole like Alexander McQueen story, one of the most recent like popular trends right now is the whole like sneaker that he had for a bit, where it's kind of more like a heel in that sense too. That they add like the heel like in the shoe. I don't know if you've noticed that lately by any chance.
No, I actually haven't. Are you talking about like the tennis? Like it looks like the
Like-
Stan Smith almost.
Yeah, like sort of like that, like with the increased heel. What are your thoughts on those shoes right now by any chance?
I would say like it's obviously a good step in the great direction. I feel like there's like so many times you can take a normal tennis shoe and remix it. I guess like with the heel, like personally I haven't seen it yet, but like I can speak from like who he was and how he saw things. Whoever picked that up and decided to continue it is actually thinking, because we need change, bro. We need change, and yeah, man, like it should be fire. I just need to see it first.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So how do you define like fashion in 2022, like in that sense, and what makes your style of fashion more unique than others?
I would say the current state of fashion right now is kind of oversaturated. Like, I'm not dissing, but like it's really oversaturated. Like you can go down the street and catch 3-4 mans wearing the same cargo pants with the same Converses and the same, you know. So I don't know. Like we need a resurgence. We need a difference. And unique to me, I guess. Like again, remixing it, making it your own. There's too much of the same.
I want to get into this question because I actually interviewed Don Muliano back last year in 2021. So you were the cover model for his brand in that sense too. Like when I saw like the EPK in that sense. So tell me more about that experience, like being that cover model in that sense too, and your fashion like runway experience, like especially with the recent situation with Richlin Fharlo's event too. What's some advice you would like to give for people that want to pursue it like in the fashion industry?
So like yeah, being a cover like model is dope. It was actually a great experience. Like the whole set, like homie opened me up like with open, like he welcomed me with open arms type stuff, and broke it down to me. He even gave me some game. Like that's the dogs right there. And then yeah, bro, we had some shots. He had like some little stuff on set. He had like butterflies and skulls, all to, you know, help brand the whole photo shoot. But yeah, it was dope. And especially with the runway, like it was different. Like usually when you go on stage or whoever, like I can speak to a performer, whoever goes on stage and does it for real people. But like you know when you get those butterflies,
Yeah.
it's different. Because like instead of just like performing the song and making sure people understand and have a good time, like now I'm really modeling someone else's clothes. Like I have to make sure like a certain piece looks right in a certain photo, like make sure like nothing is uncuffed. Like so it was different thoughts that was going on in my mind. But yeah, it was amazing. Great people. If you want to be a model, definitely like hop into that thing. And like inspiration I would say is just do it. Like I mean, if you feel like you have a swag or you have a certain type of drip that no one could really touch, man, just do it. Take some photos, reach out to people, make your own runway, you know what I'm saying? Just do it, for real.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, Richlin and like Don are like very cool guys and all that. I think like they're putting on for the city in terms of the whole fashion thing, with the whole like DIY experience, you know, like not letting like, you know, people of like certain like, you know, like establishments, you know, like higher establishments like speak over on like the underground talent. And you know, I think it's a good thing in that sense, you know. So
100%.
yeah,
100%.
most definitely. In terms of your creative process for music, what's your process like when making music, and what would a day in like making music be like for you?
They like making music. So I'm inspired by life. I'm gonna just say that when I start there. So I'd have like my little notepad, or if I don't write it down, I have my phone and I like write down whatever comes to me, whatever interactions I have. But like it could be, it's different. Like I could hop in the studio, do a session, and just be like, all right, boom, there's a record. Or we can sit down, build it from scratch, give it like a life of its own, you know? Like, I really allow the beat to really tell me the story, and I'm just the one putting words to it. I can make songs in 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 days, 4 days. It all depends on the impact that I'm trying to give and the feeling that I want people to feel. Yeah. Definitely some candles, though, and some wine. Go with some rosé sometimes.
True. And that's just like in the studio in the most part too, or like at the like at home experience, like when you're making like music at home.
Music at home, yeah, is totally different. I personally like making music alone. So like I'll have the candles, make sure the vibe is right, have the incense. Usually like puff a 1-2, get in the vibe. But yeah, it's honestly more personal when I'm at the crib. When I'm out here, it's more feeling, more vibe. Like I can really understand the vibe of the room, see where everyone is like mentally, and then see if we can really make something and leave with like a finished painting, you know?
Yeah, no, most definitely. Because I've had like past people like in the interview like tell me that, you know, in some situations they don't like having people like in the studio in that sense too, because of the vibe that it could like distract them in that sense too, and like, you know, working like alone or with like the engineer, it's like perfect sense in that sense.
Yeah, like first starting out, like I definitely was a person who wanted to write and record by himself, because that's what I used to do. Like I dropped my first song maybe when I was in like high school. So like when I was doing that, like I would just go to my thing, had my little interface, I had my Scarlet, you know what I'm saying, and then like I would write, record, punch in, and then edit my stuff with picture, and that was the whole thing. And like I didn't want to get too used to that, you know. So when it comes to like coming into spaces, working with other artists, like I feel like I can do both. You know, like the duality is important too, like especially in the industry.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And you know, talking more about like your performance experience, you know, you're actually set to perform at the Libertine. I think next week with like a lot of other acts too, like with Blue Will, with I think Marley Unknown, and then like this other artists too. But you've actually performed there in the past, and up to 45 plus people. So, speaking more on your past performances at like the Bitter Juice show, the Re-Up, and like the Libertine, tell me more about that progression in performing, and how was that experience like for you, like diverging into that aspect of music?
So like every performance I want to do better. Every performance I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong, or what could I have done better that I can bring to the next show and just make it spectacular, you know? What I can say from those shows is that like it taught me like crowd control, presence, and all of that. But yeah, like, and sorry, what was the question?
Diverging into that aspect of music, so like being in that whole performing aspect, you know, performing live in front of people, like instead of like performing at home or performing in the studio in that sense.
Yeah, it's different. Obviously, you know, you're giving people a product. You're giving people their money's worth. So yeah, like I said, I want to do better every single time. That's what I plan to do. And then like we have the show on the 29th at the Libertine, so we're about to turn that shit up. Like honestly, I was there with my homies Bitter and Broke, I think like earlier in the year, and we did like some cover songs, and we also did like some early stuff as well. But this show is definitely gonna be different, because this is like the re-up to the project. Like it's the rollout to the project. And I definitely feel like these are the records that, like, one, I've been dying to perform, dying to get out to people, and just dying to just really share it. Like, you know, it's been in the vault for so long, and it's now officially time to share it and get it out.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And what's RYE 783 show like in that sense too, and like what can fans like expect when you perform on stage?
Like you can expect a show, man. Like honestly, I want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, everyone feels good. When you leave with a smile. You leave with an experience, and you have something to talk about. That's what happens when you come to a RYE show, definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. And, you know, speaking about your past project, which actually dropped in 2018, as you mentioned, Pray, Love, Power, what was that creative process for that project?
It's actually funny. A lot of those records were like songs I made 2-3 years back, even before I released it. So like a lot of them were just like scattered. And when it came to the point of like releasing it, I'm like, yo, I don't really want to drop them and like people don't listen. So I was like, okay, boom, let's just put it together. And I put them together, 8 tracks, Pray, Love, Power. And then, like I said, like earlier in the questions, like it really shows the range of where I am and where I stand on the spectrum of music. Like you can get the reggae and the dance hall, and then you got the pop, then you got the R&B, and then you got the trap shit. Like I wanted to make sure people don't get confused that like, yo, I make music. Like, not necessarily because I sing, but I also like write. I make poems. I you know, like I make music.
Yeah.
My intention is to make a product that people feel good about. Like, feeling is key with me.
Yeah, most definitely. And I want to dive into that inspiration too. So, like, what was like that whole inspiration within that process? If you want to speak more on that.
The inspiration, I would say, it came together once it was out. So like I said, they were scattered at one point in time, just files on the computer, and then it came together, and then Pray Love Power became the name, and it just built a whole life of its own. Like, Pray Love Power, it came to me. It's like, okay, yo, in life, pray, love, power. Pray,
Yeah.
so whoever you pray to, you know, love, give out the same energy that you want to receive, and with that comes power, man. Power, comes responsibility. So, and if you listen to that too, it's kind of like the theme of it as well, especially with the cover art. Like, it just built together. Yeah.
Most definitely. And, you know, tell me more about, like, your upcoming EP, like, The Boy Who Lived. Like, I read more about it, that it's going to be more chapter-based,
Yes.
and it's going to be more of a storyline more than, like, anything else, too. So, like, you also, like, dived in on the inspiration when, like, writing it on the EPK. So, but what was, like, the creative process for that EP, and what can, like, fans and, like, listeners, like, expect from that?
So the creative process, essentially, what I wanted to do was tell the story, tell my story. And especially, we're coming out of the coronavirus, everyone's at home, quarantined and stuff. I know a lot of people lost people, a lot of people went through stuff that maybe they don't even talk about now. So instead of, like, I guess, putting it on myself and hurting myself, either mentally or physically, like, I put it on this EP. So when you listen to it from the first track, which is chapter 1, I think it's like Never Know. When you all hear that, you'll kind of get a glimpse of, like, how I was moving, how I was thinking, especially with my family and stuff. But chapter 1 all the way to a prologue, which is the 5th track, yeah, man, it's a story. And, like, I wrote, like, a whole script to it. Like, hopefully there'll be a time where you guys get it. But it's a story. It's a story from top to bottom. And I just want viewers and listeners to just digest it and really take things that they feel that they can relate to. Maybe, like, take an issue that I was talking about and maybe not have to go the same wrongs that I took, you know? But yeah.
Most definitely. And I want to talk more about your biggest song that you've actually made, which is Take It. So it gained at least like 20K streams on Spotify. Like, I listened to it too. It was also like another dope track. I think with IDK, I think IDK is like more of a refreshing track and like one of like more of like a new vibe in that sense too, from like the like production and instrumentals too. But, you know, speaking more on Take It and then like your views on YouTube gaining at least 20K channel views, tell me more about the impact of those situations and how it changed for everything, like how it changed like everything for you in a way.
It's amazing to see 20,000, 20,000 streams on that single. Just honestly tells me that people are really listening. People are liking what they hear, and I just want to give them more. And that's why, like, I've been working on my sound, working on my message, working on the next steps, because I know if 20,000 streams on one song, and that came out like a while back, like, I can only imagine like what people can take from this new stuff that's coming out with this new project and this whole world that I'm trying to bring to people.
Yeah, most definitely. In that sense too, did it lead to like more opportunities in the way for like people to tune in, like, you know, people from like the States checking in, or more opportunities for like branding or shows in that sense too?
Definitely, I'd say, like, yeah, with the song being out, people gravitated towards it, you know, wanted to see more about me, know about me. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it did. But, like, the most important thing to me is just seeing the 20,000 and seeing that I'm reaching ears, I'm reaching people. So I just want to focus on that, push this brand out, and just keep doing that on like a grander scale.
How do you feel about the Toronto music scene right now at the moment? Do you feel that there should be some changes on the direction of where the scene should go to, or do you feel like it's fine the way it is?
Honestly, man, it definitely needs some adjustments. I would say that, like, if you were to compare it to anything that's happening in the UK or in Atlanta, like, you can see, like, they have a different type of ecosystem. They have a sense of community over there. Like, you can be listening to this artist one day, and then out of nowhere a random new artist pops up, but they're buzzing and they're hot, you know? I feel like once people really understand that, like, we're helping the economy, like, we're helping each other, producers, artists, songwriters, like, all that comes back to us. It comes back to our city. There'll be there needs to be more togetherness and less one-on-one combativeness. That's what I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Before we dive into this last question for a bit too, I want to speak more on your stage name. So RYE 783. What was the inspiration for that name by any chance?
Inspiration. All right. So when I first started, my name was Kid RYE, and I came up with Kid because I was obviously 16, 15 at the time. But then RYE, it came out of just calling myself what I wanted to attract. Obviously, I didn't grow up rich, so my first thing on my mind was yo, we gotta get this paper, we gotta get this bread, and I felt calling myself RYE would intentionally attract the resource that we need, so Kid RYE, and then 783 is now attached to it, and that's the brand, that's what's gonna be here after me. So yeah.
Most definitely. So aside from your EP coming up soon in that sense too, what other stuff do you have going on next, in terms of other creative projects or other opportunities, aside from performing next week, with runway experiences or anything else? And do you have any final words you'd like to say for any person or any creative out there pursuing their dreams?
So what I can say going forward is a launch of the brand, official brand 783. Make sure that people really gravitate towards it. I say it's an extension of myself because it is. I give the music, and I feel the 783 part is the more community side, reaching out to the people who relate, who can say, oh, I like how he puts his clothes together. I like how he thinks about different themes for his music. I want people to collectively come together in 783 and be yo, we know certain things. We know pop culture. We know,
yeah.
That's what 783 is. It's the extension of myself. Words I would give to anyone, again, just do it. Time is not warranted to anyone. You really got to just do it. You'll wake up 5 years later and it's you should have done it then. So it's just do it at that time that you have, and just make it the best you can.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, RYE, thank you for coming by to speak on this platform. It was a pleasure having you in that sense. I wish nothing but the best for you in terms of everything else going on. Please pre-save the EP if it comes out soon with the link to.
Definitely.
And most definitely check out the IDK single too. Check out everything else that he has going on. Cop your tickets for next week's show going on, and I hope you kill it out there. I think with you having a DIY approach towards creativity within fashion and with music, I feel that's what the city needs right now, is someone that could lead in that sense too, to be more of a pioneer rather than anything else too. And I hope you lead the way for the city as well.
If one thing, if anything's gonna take one thing from this, or from myself, I'd say, just be yourself, and that's it. Once you do that, everything is just less of a problem, believe me. So if you love fashion, drip yo, be drippy. If you love music, be writing, but don't ever compromise. If you see it in your head, if you really see it, just go and do it, for real. That's the last thing I want to say to anyone.
Yeah, most definitely, man. RYE, thank you for everything. Until next time, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right, peace.